document takes up all the space. All right, guys. We've got Zarina, the rational female, and her uncle also becoming slowly famous. I think maybe I don't know. Do you, so you like to put Ulrich, not your real name?
No,
Uh,
oh, it's not my real name at all. No.
yeah, I know, but Narish, yeah.
Nourish, yes.
Okay, cool. It's just
But
I'm taking so long to memorize your name because all I see is Ulrich all the time.
no, that's okay. What I was going to say was when we first met, you kept calling me uncle.
Did I call you uncle?
Yes.
Yeah, I
And
think I do that out of respect for a lot of people
that's,
anyway.
that's right. And my relationship with Zarina is the same. I'm the same
Yeah.
kind of uncle to Zarina as I am to you.
Oh, that's
Like
lovely.
she's my cousin's daughter.
Yeah, yeah, I know,
Not
I
my sister's daughter, but my
know.
cousin's daughter. But I'm an uncle to her like I'm an uncle to you.
Yeah, her face is looking like your niece right now. She's like, oh yeah, it's true. Is it? Normally it's like, I'm Serena. It's like, yeah, yeah, it's true. But anyway, I want to do some quick intros. I said to you guys I'm gonna make three sharp points or whatever, and I started writing the stuff. And every time I start writing, it just gets bigger and bigger, and I can't make it short. So I'm gonna try to do a short intro, so I take up less time. But I just want to say a few important things. What is it? These talks are not about academic debates or even winning or whatever. It's about trying to make the world a better place. Otherwise, I've got far better things to do. I think we all got far better things to do than just trying to be right. We just want to. This is what makes human beings happy, to make the world a bit better. That's why people like Zarina are in crazy places like Speaker's Corner still. I've moved. I'm in, you know, relatively chilled Jordan now. In not particularly good weather, surrounded by lots of crazy people, and committing a lot of time and effort to debate people. It's not an easy thing to do at all. So hats off to Zarina for that, and all the really cool ideas that come out in your videos as well. Then we've got her uncle Naresh, also known as Ulrich, for whatever reason. He's got two crows hanging off his shoulders and looking like a proper bad boy today, showing off his tattoo. But the sweetest, nicest guy. If you get all his text messages, WhatsApp messages, you'll know. Um, so I'm a Muslim. I do happiness classes. This is a happiness class, uh, one of the last in the course, where I've been talking about loads of benefits of Islam. And I always choose people to debate with me who probably disagree in some way. Um, and why I say it's one of the last in the course is because obviously well, not obviously, but I go back to the beginning again, is that I've highlighted lots of benefits of Islam, but I'm not going to reiterate all of them again. It's just like, okay, I've shown you Islam, why not take it up? It seems to be a good idea. What do you think? Let's get, because you're older, uncle, you get to introduce yourself before Zarina does. So do you want to say something about yourself?
I think I'm basically married. I'm a dad. Uh, I've got no YouTube channel. I'm just here because I actually love having an interfaith discussion with you.
Thank you. It's so kind. And it's pretty worth mentioning. Would you say you're a devout Hindu? Because you seem to know a lot about Hinduism than more about Hinduism than most people I know.
I'm a totally devout Hindu. Totally devout Hindu. I'm also an Indian nationalist. Very conservative views. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And that's worth mentioning in this discussion because I'll be saying like, why don't you become a Muslim to a devout Hindu? So that's an interesting discussion by itself. Um, and then we've got Zarina. who at times you've labeled yourself as an Islamophobe, or maybe you put that title on your videos to get more views. I'm not sure, but you introduce yourself.
Hello, yes, Serena, the Rational Female. I'm an author and anti-feminist from London, and I'm on a spiritual journey, I would say. Am I an Islamophobe? I mean, for me, I have my general views on the Abrahamic worldview as a whole. I don't really agree with the Abrahamic worldview, and I think that's because I quite like a more, I guess you could say, pantheistic view of the world, and I'm actually an idol worshipper, so that might be why I'm not a huge fan of Abrahamic worldview, and that's something that I actually, especially in more recent months, have been taking more and more seriously.
Okay, so what have you been taking more seriously, the idol worshipping side or the Islamic
Yeah,
side, or okay,
I pray to a deity.
cool, okay.
It's not
Um,
deity, right? Deity.
I don't even know. There's all these American versions, British
Deity.
version of saying it. I don't know. Um, I really don't know where my viewers come from. They seem to come from all over. Um, so yeah, and when you said you, I think before I'm trying to reduce the intros, but I do feel like when you came, it's kind of worth mentioning. You came. I introduced you. No, I invited you to an a Muslim festival, and you came along, even though you have your reservations about Islam. Um, and when you were there, we had like a lot of very interesting conversations where we're like, oh yeah, we both agree on X, Y, Z, and you were praying alongside Muslims in your own way, but you were like, it's hard to pigeonhole people, but basically, without extending the introductions too much, very interesting people who I really value having in this conversation, and I encourage you to disagree with me to make it more interesting. So go for it. Anyway, I do like to get a little bit into the comments. Somebody here is always amazed by my t-shirts. He can't imagine I'm married. Every stream it seems he has a question
I
about
like
my
your
t-shirt.
t-shirts, Khaled. I think they're very cool and funky.
Yeah, thank you. Um, and then we've got Alika who's been watching for a very long time. I won't introduce everybody too much. Anyway, I don't want to. Yeah, I tried to wear a Hawaii t-shirt once and so, whatever. And yeah, all right, okay. Let's do this. So I'm going to share my thing, my my little script. People have said some people have said it's a good idea to read the script. I kind of what am I doing? I just pressed the wrong button completely. Let me try again. Share screen. Pick this. One of the reasons why I read it because if I don't read it, I just go on forever, and we would definitely won't stick within our 1 hour time limit. And I do like to stick to my 1 hour time limit for many reasons. Partly because I value everybody who's like both of you who are taking time to do this, so they should know when it'll finish. But also, yeah. Anyway, let's go for it. Why become a Muslim? First question is, what has this got to do with happiness? This is the penultimate lesson reviewing proofs that Islam has unique and the most powerful life advice and evidence for it. Without clear rules of Islam, we are confused, lost, and depressed. We make decisions that are bad for us. Those are some ideas of reasons why talking about this. So very quickly, I've listed, like I said earlier on, a bunch of reasons, 33 different classes, whatever, so far about relationships, the environment, economics, blah, 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 why Islam is so good. And they're relatively unique. If they're not unique, they share a lot, mostly by the Abrahamic faith, whatever. Yeah. Done a lot of talking. Let's go Nourish first. Your initial thoughts. I'm trying to make it bigger because I think people are squinting trying to read this. Um, it's very much just an introduction, but it's like, what's the point of even talking about this? Because I think Islam really has unique things to offer the world. Anything you want to say, Narish, to begin with?
I think Islam has got quite a lot to offer the world, and why become Muslim? You've got to actually direct it to the right kind of audience. Now, exactly looking at it from the perspective of where I'm sitting, the Western side of civilization, Christian society declining, why become a Muslim has quite a different answer specifically than when you would say why become a Muslim generally. Now, at this particular point, I think the West needs to embrace Islam, mainly because there's no alternative left. Most religions are all set. They have their ethno-religious traditions. They're not proselytizing. You can't become one of them. So basically, the only options that you've got really is Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. Unfortunately, Judaism and Christianity are both on the decline. And in the West, Christianity has completely lost its way. So why become a Muslim becomes very, very important to two categories of people, really, which I would address, the two categories in the West. The first category is going to be the same people, the atheists or people who are looking for a meaning. They're confused, they are lost, and they want to give their life meaning. Now, if they want that and they want to find happiness, here is a religion which offers you a way. It allows people to convert to it. It guides you. It does all those things that a person requires. So on that particular sense, there's plenty of reasons why a person searching for God should embrace Islam. The second category of people who should consider Islam are the other types of Westerners which don't have any kind of religious views. What they've got really basically is what I would term a feminist religion. Now, I can clarify that. Basically, feminism is basically the destruction of the traditional woman's role, the destruction of the family, and all that goes with it is religion. Now, what feminism has done is basically destroyed those three fundamental things that exist in society that make us closer to God. And instead, it's created a vacuum. And in that vacuum, you've got the New Age religious views and religious beliefs that are sort of emerging, which are completely reflective of feminist ideology. It's all now about the individual, whereas religions are all about the collective. Now, feminism has spawned a whole new age of people who want to follow things like Wicca, New Age shamanism. They want to open their Reiki and third eye, their Kundalini, or even follow Egyptian gods or worship idols. It's all based down to this individualism, right, which has been bred by feminism, basically. And what feminism has done has created this whole unique array of what we now call New Age religions and junk spirituality. So those are the two categories. I think why become a Muslim should be a question they should be asking, because I think they would find benefits in becoming a Muslim or embracing Islam. Because without it, what they're going to find is they're going to get lost, they're going to get confused, and depression is coming. The thing is, your individual belief systems cannot give you the solace a collective religion provides. It does not work that way. We've got, at the moment, the world stands, with multiple apocalyptic events about to sort of unfold upon us. Times like this, a faith is more important. People can sit at home, godless, fretting, worrying. Their faith is not going to support them because it's made up. You've got to have a faith not based upon individualism. It has to be based upon the collective. If you think about every elder, every teacher, from every religion, from Catholicism down to Sikhism, they are always guiding society or humanity with rules to guide us on the same path. Every religion is about the collective and not the individual at the early stages. So why become a Muslim? I think people who are searching for God want to find God. Islam is a good way. From the Islam I see, and I'm quite biased because I've only glimpsed Islam through the writings of the promised Messiah, His Holiness. So I've got this unique, loving glimpse of what I see Islam has. And the other category of people who are not searching for God, who think they've found some kind of anchor or a religion, you're going to be deeply disappointed. Religion is about the collective. Faith is about the collective. It's not about individualism. Think about it. Your individual faith will not give a gift to the future. When I get married and I have children, they're my gifts to the future. I will instill in them all the values that will carry on. How can we live in a society when each person practices his own individual belief? What do I pass on to my child? Do I pass on a morality that is fluid? I can't expect my kids to be fluid. They follow the rules. Islam gives you that clearly. And if you can't understand it, like, oh, I'm being suppressed or I'm being made to wear this kind of clothing, I think you need to go back and re-examine it. Islam's a lot more than that. And it's not just only religion. It's a whole ideology. In itself, it contains all four principles of what makes a religion. And it's very valuable. And in this day and age, everyone is leaving God. Everyone's going and finding false idols to worship. Even Hinduism forbids idolatry at that level. That is not worshiping God. So the world needs God. Islam is a beautiful religion through the eyes of the promised Messiah. All I can say is, why not become a Muslim? I cannot see any negativity for you or anyone else to follow Islam because there's no other thing open to you. You can't become a Hindu. You can't become a Jew. These are ethno-religious groups. We're tribes. We're family lineages. You know, you suddenly can't become a family lineage. You have no Gotra. You have no Varana. It's so different. You can't convert to someone's religion, but here is a beautiful opportunity. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is giving you the Quran. I've only seen it through the eyes of His Holiness. And all I can say is, even as a Hindu, the only thing I'm looking for is the beauty of God. You know, seeing someone else see God beautifully is wonderful. To see the beauty of God through the eyes of the promised Messiah, for me, is an honor. And all I want to do is share with you all that honor at the end of the day. Here is a Hindu saying, look, at the end of the day, we don't convert you, but you need to find God. And Islam is showing you a way. It's a true God. Allah is, you know, the only God. There's 100 names for him. You know, I'm quite fine to say there's only one God but Allah. And Muhammad is his prophet. I have absolutely no qualms. It doesn't affect my religious belief. It doesn't affect my cosmology. And at the same time, my respect for Islam grows the more I understand. Now, obviously, there's going to be one or two things that I got confused about. Khalid, I'll tell you. Idolatry, we discussed idolatry. And there's other things that I wish to discuss. But from where I stand at the moment and the Islam that's been presented to me through the eyes of the promised Messiah, I 100% say yes. Islam is the way forward. And not only spiritually, as Westerners, you've got to think within 5 years, your country is going to be Islamic, right? There's no running away from it and denying it. It's not even by sword or fire. It's called democracy. Simply by the vote, they democratically will be the dominant class in this country. So you can all do yourselves a favor. You can either find God spiritually, or you can find God and become a Muslim because you're going to be living in a Muslim country. And what better way to live in a country than to respect your neighbors because they're going to be Muslim? Your law is going to be Sharia. It's going to be based upon Islamic principles. Why not embrace it now? There's 101 reasons, but for me, I think Islam is a beautiful religion. And what I've seen so far, like I said, I've not read the Quran and I've only had the honor of reading the Promised Messiah's essay, I will ultimately back the idea of why a person should give up any silly faith that they've got and embrace Islam, or rather become a Muslim. The benefits outweigh the negativity, and that sense of brotherhood I've seen within Islam, the caring about each other, the comradeship, the standing up for each other. You'll find family where you haven't found a family before. A lot of Westerners have come from broken families and all that. In Islam, you will find a family. I've seen it. And I only speak this way, not only because I'm trying to force a view. You've got to realize, for instance, Zarina's 26. I've lived almost 3 times her life. So in that time, I've had specific views. And all I can say to you is, become a Muslim. It is beneficial for you. It's more beneficial than either being a person who doesn't believe in God, an atheist, or a person who's deluded and believes in a feminist religion.
Normally, I would stop people, but that was frigging amazing. That was so well articulated, so loving as well, because I think it comes from an uncle's perspective, and not just an uncle's perspective, like a humanitarian perspective, like not just was talking to the reader, but everybody, I think, right? And incredibly well articulated. I just feel like 1 or 2 keywords. Who is the promised Messiah? I believe God never shut up. He's always talking, and he's always sent prophets, and he's not going to stop. He's always going to communicate. Why should he stop if he's done it for millennia in the past? So the promised Messiah is just another prophet who I follow, who was promised by many religions, including Hinduism, because Hindus promised that Krishna would come back. Buddha promised Buddha would come back in the latter days. Jesus promised he would come back in the latter days, and a sort of a reflection of Prophet Muhammad would come back. So, he's here, and he has many proofs, and that's actually the next episode. But that's and he wrote many books, including an essay called "Philosophy or the Teachings of Islam." That so you wrote Ulrich, Zarish, no, Narish, Nazish, no. It's your fault. It's your fault. I can't remember your name.
Call me Ulrich.
No, I can't.
Call me Uncle. Call me Uncle.
I'll call you Uncle. That's way better. Okay. So Uncle has been reading for about a month or so. Very deep book, and we've been having a back and forth conversation. Anyway, Zarina, feel free to disagree. Go for it.
I mean, the first thing I'll say is that I think it's very, very unrealistic to expect Westerners, especially modern Westerners, to accept Islam, because most people who have grown up in the West have grown up in a very secular, liberal, democratic society. And I think that most modern Westerners perceive Islam as being far too restrictive and far too kind of almost foreign as an ideology. And I just think that it's very unrealistic to expect, people, especially people who've grown up without any kind of religion, because Islam has all these very it has a lot of tenets to it, and it has a lot of it's not just a religion; it's a kind of a religio/political philosophy.
It's a whole way of life, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that it's actually very unrealistic to. I don't think as a young modern Westerner, I don't think most Westerners are going to accept Islam, and I genuinely don't think that the West is going to become Islamic purely because there's far too many people who oppose it, and I think that most people in the West are actually quite happy living in a kind of secular, non-religious society.
Can I suggest how it will happen inevitably? I think your uncle is totally right. Okay, I did a little survey at Speaker's Corner, and I was shocked how black and white the people at Speaker's Corner. I talked to a Jew, and I just went round Speaker's Corner asking a very racist question. I said, "Are white people dying out?" And everybody was like, "Yeah, of course." Okay, because statistically, they're not having any kids, and Muslims are doubling up all the time. Okay, so why are they? So they're taking over the population, whether you like it or not. White people are dying out, whether they like it or not. it's inevitable. Loads of people
And
have
maybe
seen,
then
yeah.
people in the West,
and then they're
maybe
going to
West-
have political control because of that. They've already got the mayor of London. It's just a matter of time when they get the rest of it.
yes, so then maybe in the West we need to stop importing migrants from Islamic countries then. Because I mean I know that sounds kind of cold. I don't mean that in a
That's
horrible
fine.
way.
That's fine.
I mean as in but I don't mean that in a hot because that kind of sounds like really rude. I don't mean that in a horrible way. I just mean as in like because I think just me just being I'm saying this in a very kind of trying to be as pragmatic as possible.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even about Islam or anything. It's more about the sense. It's like it's like, for example, if I think of myself, you know, as someone who's grown up, you know, being able to wear, you know, what I want and have my hair out, the idea of having to wear, you know, having to cover my hair or cover myself it's not even about whether or not I disagree. It's just like this is almost expecting a person to take on an entire new way of life. And I think that is something which just won't work. And I really don't see why we can't just have countries that are Islamic and countries that are non-Islamic. I don't see why can't we just say, okay, there are countries where Islam is there and that's wonderful. Can't we just have something for the West that is different? And it's funny because I was actually with somebody today earlier who I know who's actually he's actually a Hindu. He's Indian. He's like me, kind of grown up in the West. But he comes from a Hindu family, and it's interesting because we were talking about spirituality, and he's only a few years older than me, and he was saying that he believes that spirituality is a personal journey, and he actually believes that because he was talking about how he's done like a lot of like drugs, how he's done like you know a lot of psychedelics and stuff, and also just all kinds of things, and he was raised with certain teachings and all that, and you know, I don't want to talk too much about Hinduism because I don't want to misrepresent the faith as out of respect for my uncle. But he was talking about certain things like Satana Dharma and all that, and he was saying that he perceives spirituality as a journey of the self. And he said to me that couples who've been married for like 50 or 60 years, in the end they split and they go on like that individual journey. Because he said in the end it's about you and your personal relationship with God. And I guess maybe spirituality in the end, I mean, this is pure speculation, but is spirituality actually a solo thing in the end? Because it's like, if every individual, imagine if you've got like a society of, say, 10 million people, if every individual person experiences a spiritual awakening, could that actually almost raise the collective vibration? It's like, do we actually need to bring in a religion? Or what if every person just experience, like if everyone experienced a spiritual awakening and if everyone found a connection to God, would that actually trigger some kind of awakening? That's just me being purely hypothetical. And you know, I appreciate that with Islam, you know, again, it's not just a religion, it's got an entire law, it's got an entire structure, but maybe some people actually don't want, like, I don't mean this in a strange way, but maybe some people don't actually want that. Maybe some people are quite happy to say, well, no, I actually like, it's not that I don't want any structure, it's that I like to kind of live a life whereby, you know, I already have certain principles.
Sure, you want to keep your freedom to some extent. Is that what you're saying?
I think so, yeah. Like maybe some people.
I'm just going to give you a picture of an Islamic country because I think you might have the wrong idea. So I'm in Jordan, an Islamic country, which also has Christians and atheists and whatever you want, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And what the benefit is that people absorb some of the Islamic ideals. The Muslims are definitely not perfect. They're a bit crazy. In fact, they say they're crazy, right? That's a kind of joke when you go to a shop. Yeah, Arab. Yeah, we're all crazy, right? It's kind of, so we're definitely not saying we're perfect, but everybody has absorbed this brotherhood, sisterhood idea, whether you're a Muslim or not. And there's so many ideals or cultural connections that make people just feel safer and connected. And there are Muslims who don't wear headscarves, for example. Like that's a common thing as well. There's all sorts of varieties. It's not like it's one block, one mentality. You will be forced to do anything. Like the queen of this country, she's a Muslim, doesn't wear a headscarf. There's so many varieties, different kinds of people within it, but they benefit from those ideas. And the funny thing for me is that, so I'm going to pick up some of the topics, but the funny thing for me is when you're talking and all your ideals, you know this. They're just Islamic ideals. There's so many of them.
It's funny because I knew you were going to say that, and I was just thinking a second ago
Well,
when you
kind of
talk about
obvious.
brotherhood and sisterhood. Isn't that a universal ideal? Because I actually felt that when we went to the Ahmadi convention and the Khalifa was talking. The more I think about it, you call it Islamic, but is it actually not? Is it just a universal humanitarian thing? Because think about it, you've got a Muslim and a Hindu, and then just a random person. But
Yes.
it's like, I think we all three of us probably agree on certain things, like you shouldn't kill people, you shouldn't steal, men and men and women and women, and we both have.
This is the oldest thing. The funny thing is that this is the big mistake. I feel like I want to get Uncle involved here because he's incredibly articulate about this, right? How do you say it? There's the real world, and there's the Westerners who are making up maybe this and maybe that, and isn't that okay? If everybody was when you say universal, you make it sound like it's automatic that people become brothers and sisters. The reality is exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. Without God, you've got the death of brotherhood and sisterhood. It's completely gone. That like we have to be a little bit realistic here. That's just not the case. The picture you're painting. Oh, isn't it? Like you said, don't we all know that we shouldn't steal or rape and all this kind of stuff? But it happens. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
over
that's
here,
what I was saying.
it doesn't make sense. You need that religion, otherwise it doesn't happen. Sorry, go.
But if everyone experienced some kind of spiritual awakening, I mean, even Uncle Naresh like mentioned Buddhism, for example, because I know because I've read a bit about Buddhism, and I actually at one point considered becoming a Buddha. Buddhism talks a lot about, I don't know, like you have like the Four Noble Truths, or like Taoism, you have the Way, like you have these kind of concepts, and all it really comes down to is people wanting to feel connected to God. And I wonder, like, people can feel connected to God. Why not just encourage, like, it's almost like, is it too much to start saying to people, embrace Islam? Maybe instead of it's almost like running before you can walk, because that's just, especially to modern Westerners who've been raised in a society where they're not used to religion, where they're not
both of me and your uncle have got the exact same reaction to what you're saying. We're like,
yeah, but I'm saying like
okay,
realistically.
But I'll tell you realistically, all the Buddhists I know, and I've talked to Buddhists and done videos and whatever, they all have really bad mental health, right? When I'm talking about, and they really, really do suffer, right? Because it's not real Buddhism that you're probably thinking about. There's even a website called Real Buddhist Quotes, because all the Buddhist quotes have been hijacked by Westerners who are basically preaching individualism. It's really bad. But I'm going to stop myself from talking. Uncle, it's not me. It's not us two versus you. It's just talking. You might not even agree, but I feel like. And anyway, part of my thing as a host is I want you to be talking more anyway, Uncle. So go for it.
I think what I'm going to address is Zarina bringing up the idea of universal laws. Doesn't she or enlightened people follow universal laws? Don't do this, don't do that, all those good things. I think what Zarina is just doing again is individualism. She's picking out the ones that suits her. You forget that every religion, whether it's Catholic, Muslim, Jewish, Farsi, Sikh, or whatever, those same universal laws that you're referring to also have things like rules about marriage, conduct before marriage, dressing modestly, all those rules about not having sex before XYZ, and all those rules that are associated with our behavior. It's quite easy to sort of refer to universal laws because, again, what we're doing is it's individualism. I'm picking what suits me and my morality. Religion doesn't work that way. We can't have a society where everybody suddenly awakens up as a child and thinks, I am enlightened. I mean, I think Khalid will come on to creation myths later, which will illustrate this quite well. The situation here is we don't become enlightened. It doesn't work that way. If you saw last week's program about the soul, the progression of the soul, that explains it as well as does the essay of his The Promised Messiah. And again, Islam presents this as the three sources. Now, you know, the individual journey of spirituality that you are talking about, you can't reach it until you go through that progress. You have to be taught how to behave, how to dress, what rules to follow, how to pray, when to pray. This is going to elevate you to that rational person. When you're rational, you can make more rational judgments. Now, even then, the rational judgments are subjective. When you finally, after, you know, becoming a parent, reach the age of 40ish or whatever, your soul starts to become at peace. You've learnt all that your culture, that your teachings and your religion has given you. They arm you, they make you bulletproof. And once you've done your fulfillment, you've followed all the rules, not the ones you've selected. There's been no individual. You've followed your religion. You've acted as a child, you followed your parents' teachings. As a rational person, you followed the religious law of your community and didn't break it. Eventually, you become at rest because you know you've done good. You found a way that someone showed you structured wise towards God. Only when your soul is at rest can you even start that individual journey to understand God. All the way through, everything is collective. The collectiveness of your religion will take you to the point where you can have that individual relationship. You just can't imagine it at any stage. I said yesterday, imagine all religions being like a kung fu school. Each school's got its way of training and discipline, but the idea of each kung fu school is to produce the best fighter. Religion's a bit like that. They've all got their different philosophies. This new age feminism spiritualism is a bit like watching 3 Jackie Chan videos and thinking, I'm a black belt master. It's the same kind of deludedness. It does not work.
I mean, I think it's very easy for two people who've been brought up and raised in very strict religions to turn around and look down on and berate Westerners because they maybe don't understand the fact that Westerners have been raised in a different way. And for, you know, again, as somebody who's grown up in the West who understands the way the society
Me too, by the way.
I know for a fact that most young people, especially my generation, are not going to just turn around and say, okay, I'm going to accept Islam. And it's almost like very naive. So I'm suggesting is that rather than throwing Islam or this or that religion, maybe simply starting with, you know, something as simple as, why don't you start by, like, for example, in Alcoholics Anonymous, I remember when I first started, because I was very, very atheistic. And for me, the whole idea of a higher power, it was just terrifying. So it's like, okay, why not just start by looking up at the stars? Why not just start by almost humbling yourself and saying, okay, there is something greater than myself. There is something bigger than me. Why not start by meditating? Why not start by praying? Because, you know, Uncle Naresh, you're completely right. You know, obviously, I also think finding God is a lifelong journey. I mean, I think that's, you know, can probably agree on that. It's not something that's going to come overnight. And I think that most young people who've grown up without any kind of spirituality, maybe something as simple as just start by, you know, something small, start by meditating, start by looking at the stars, start by, you know, trying to develop that, because it's almost like trying to say you know, trying to tell somebody, you know, because also, you know, a lot of people leave Islam. I mean, a lot of people leave the faiths, and one of the main, I know this because I've watched as well, a lot of people talk about why they leave Christianity. One of the main reasons people say they leave is because they find it to be too strict or too restrictive. And, you know, that is a genuine reality, is that a lot of people leave their faiths because they actually do find it to be too restrictive. And maybe, you know, maybe some people almost feel like it's suppressing their ability to connect to that which is greater than themselves. And maybe something as simple as just start by acknowledging there's something greater than you, and start by acknowledging these principles. Because I do agree that, like, you know, and I also, you know, this is going to start being quite argumentative, but what is so wrong with individualism? Because imagine if every individual behaved well, then why is that bad? Imagine if every single individual was a good, decent human being. You know, in that case, well, then what's wrong with individualism?
Yeah. Okay. So you pointed out some great introductions to the things I want to talk about. So one of the things was like, how do you know this God exists? You know what I mean? Is it a lifelong journey? And I actually am going to aim to do the very short version of this. So I'm going to have these three categories of reasonings, you know, and I'm going to jump to the first one. And there's like, if there's a truth that there is a God, then actually you don't really have a choice. And it sounds terrible. Before I want to back up a little bit. I think sometimes I say things, me and I think your uncle included, which we're saying things in a really black and white, this is how it is way, because you can disagree with me, uncle, but we've seen the carnage of thinking that there is another way. The carnage of, you know what, we can try out different relationships, whatever. That's not all sorts of articles and everything psychological. I read another article the other day. How there's a 60-year-old man, and he's like, yeah, I thought I could try this. I went into this relationship and that relationship, and I ended up by myself with no kids, and I'm really hating life. And I just see it again and again, and sometimes we're really harsh. And I think sometimes I'm too black and white. And maybe you, Zarina, you could be the bridge, the softer way and stuff like that, and explaining it better, right? But this is just
I would say almost, sorry to interrupt, but I would say, isn't making mistakes part of the human experience? Because it's like, isn't that just part of the human experience, you know? Well, it is, because if it was black and white, you wouldn't have different religions, you wouldn't have different philosophies, you wouldn't have different philosophers. If everything was black and white, you wouldn't have all these religions and philosophies and different schools.
They're all originally the same, is my short answer. But uncle?
No, I think Zarina's sort of misunderstanding what she's saying about religions. Would we say we're all the same? Yes, fundamentally there is that belief in God, but it's structured. You see, the thing is, a long time ago, my ancestors, other ancestors from different places, all realized, the enlightened people, the ones that thought about civilization, the collective, not the individual, they found a path for us to connect with the divine, an abstract, unknowable, unimaginable God. These wise people then came and gave us civilization. They gave us a structured way to approach him. Individualism, it's okay. Look, no one can force you, because the thing is, no one can force you to believe in God. That doesn't work. Only when you see the beauty of God will you automatically go to him. It's no good me berating you, says Zarina, you have to believe. No. To force you to believe is the wrong thing. Showing you what it can do for you, the benefits. It has to be structured, Zarina. Every religion throughout, whatever, has had, this is where the idea of wise men comes from. You reach a certain age when you've learnt from life. You're not going to become enlightened. Children can't become enlightened. We are guided at that particular point by our parents. Our parents set our rules. Never mind what the law says. Your parents guide us. They instill with us all the rules that we need to follow. If our parents don't do that, you don't grow up with the same framework. And it's not like I come from a strict religion. I came from a background that was how to behave properly. And before you think that I'm a backward Indian, I was born in Birmingham in 1962. I've led a British life all the way through. If you think that you've not even read the Bible, I've read it twice, Old Testament and New. I went to religious education and church and Sunday school until the age of 16. Not because I was a Christian, because I loved God. I went to a Gurdwara. I pray after marriage. My marriage was blessed in a Gurdwara. Why? I was not because I was a Sikh, because I loved God. All these places I can find God. The promised Messiah showed me God. You cannot find that with individualism. I know individualism on many levels is important for things like your artistic expression, etc., etc. It's not to stifle that. It's not to take that individual spark away from you, not to destroy your creativity. It's to set rules. This is why
to channel it.
Yeah, this is why we say you can't. This is why we frown upon sex before marriage, or things like in your previous videos when you talk about body count. We're trying to deal with these at a much more simpler level so our children don't have to go through these mistakes. It's not about going up and down, up and down. Life isn't that. We don't want our children to experience ups and downs. We want to instill them with all the right values and the ability that they can progress. So our children can progress from the child state to a
How are they supposed to progress if they don't make any mistakes? How is a person supposed to progress if they don't make mistakes?
Everyone makes mistakes. Our parents are there to guide us. Without our parents, we'd be making a hell of a lot more mistakes. Trust me, we all children make mistakes. I made mistakes and I got clipped around the head for it.
Serena, if you had a child, okay, she's 1 year old, imagine, would you let her do anything? Let her
I don't know if
and
wise for me to answer those kind of questions because I don't have children.
Okay, let's not. But it's the whole point of these live streams is that you don't have to. People will hear the question, they will contemplate, you'll contemplate. That's cool. And I'm the most useless at getting to the end of my shows. So the content. So let me just read this thing. I'm skipping just about everything. I'm going straight to the Holy Quran. Do not those who disbelieve see the heavens and the earth were a closed up mass? Then we opened them out, and we made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? Okay, if you can't see what it's saying, first of all, closed up mass, I think it's incredibly clear. Big Bang. And by the way, you might think it's a normal idea. Even Einstein thought it was a very weird idea, the Big Bang. He really fought against it if you look at the history. We've just come to accept it. The whole thing about everything being created, every living thing being created from water, that's a pretty epic thing by itself. NASA looks for life by looking for water. And this is God talking, as far as I'm concerned, and it's just saying, listen, it's so clear. I'm here. I'm telling you stuff nobody could have known, and I'm making it really simple. It's up to you, though. It's always your choice. Any response? And that's just by one of many, many, many scientific ideas that were impossible to be known at that time.
Well, it's funny again because you're talking about Islam, but it's like, Uncle Naresh mentioned something about, learning about Christianity, going to a Gurdwara, Buddhism. And what I'm saying is that how can Islam be the truth when there are 1,000,001 ways to connect to God? If Islam was the only truth, why there's so many religions?
Good question. I think I answered it twice already in this stream. Yeah. They all come from the same source. Islam teaches that for every people, God sent a messenger. That's in the Quran, right? So Hinduism, Krishna, according to me, was a prophet of God. Buddha, according to me, was a prophet of God. And they all show signs of prophethood. They go against the norms of the time, and they lead people to one God. That's the original teachings. Even Uncle was offended that his religion is called idolatrous, because you believe in one God, right, Uncle?
Yep.
Right. So they all originally taught one God. That's the natural state of human beings, to believe in one God. They've done multi-million-pound scientific experiments with kids before they were, what's the word, culturalized? There's a word, controlled by their culture, and they all believed in one God. So anyway, there's many, many evidences. There is no difference. So I should have given a shorter answer. There is no difference. Islam teaches they all came from the same source, but over time things get changed, corrupted. People add their own bits to the story, and there could be a longer answer to that, but that's a quick. Does that help? Because I think that's an important question.
In the end, are we not all just trying to find our way back to God?
Yes, sometimes every time you talk, I feel like you're just a Muslim, but just resisting a bit longer. But anyway,
it's like almost like, why do I need to be labeled anything? Why do I need to be labeled as a Muslim or a Hindu? Well, no, it's true, because actually, am I not just the spark of God? Am I not just the spark of creation? Are we not all just a spark of creation? Why does it have to? I'm obviously like being challenging, but it's like, you know,
it's not challenging. It's just it's interesting.
Because I was at a very, very interesting conversation earlier with somebody today, and it feels like quite funny synchronicity, because we were talking about this, and he was saying something about how like like everything is God, and that sounds strange, but it's like not everything is God, but it's like everything is a part of God, you know.
Cool.
Because everything is part of everything, you know.
Can I give a quick answer? And I want to give Uncle a chance to give a quick answer. I agree. Everything is part of God. This is basic in Islamic idea as well, that there's only God. Allah is the one and only, really. Okay. So what does that mean practically? So I could describe it how I envisage that. I suppose I will quickly, but I'm not sure how important that is, because you can envisage different ways. If you see God as a skipping rope, and then the wave or the fluctuations as the illusion of something else, which is us momentarily existing, that's us. Yeah. We're just part of that. Right. Okay. But does that mean we are God? Does that mean we create? No. Realistically, we don't. We are creations. So there's no comparison between the actual creator and images of God, which is what all religions teach. We are images of God. We are not God. If we're a little bit honest with ourselves, we know that anyway. That's my quick answer. Uncle? And you don't have to agree. We're not necessarily a team. We seem to be, but like you can say anything you want.
You said you was going to pick a controversial topic, but it seems that it wasn't that controversial.
Yeah, I was trying to pick a topic where he would disagree with me, but anyway, go on.
I'll email you a few ideas. No,
okay.
I think it's nothing about stifling any individual spark. You know, we're not on about there's all different ways to reaching God. But what I'm saying is, it's like you've not got the map. I understand that your soul inside. This is the reason why you're trying to connect with your idols or your make-believe feminist religion, because you really want to find God. You're not doing it out of any kind of anything, but unfortunately you're coming from the individualism, which does not work. Your soul is yearning for God. That's why you're trying to worship these idols and these deities. The source, what you call the source, what I call the source, God, he sends people your way. I mean, how many people do you want to come to you and say, Zarina, this is a good way for you to go? You can always choose the opposite. That's always your choice. But none of it is about trying to stifle a person's spark or anything. It's simply to really help you. Because no matter how you believe in your heart that we're all equal, that we can all get to God, that we're all even the same as God, you're wrong. This is why you need to go back to the drawing board and have somebody instill that entire concept inside you. Yeah, the concepts differ, but in the end, Islam, Judaism, all these other religions will lead you to that one truth. Islam is offering it at the moment. There's no other choice. It's a beautiful
way. There's many choices because there's many other religions.
Well, who wants you? You've got Christianity or Islam.
Well, Buddhism,
Buddhism. You could, if you can't submit to Islam, there's no way you're going to even follow any of the doctrine of Buddhism, because it's so hard that nobody's following it. It's that bloody hard.
It's the fastest dying religion. Yeah.
Buddhism is dying. Christianity's gone out of this country. What are your choices? What other religion? Say tomorrow you become a Hindu, we'll all nod at you and go, "Good girl, she's become a Hindu." But you won't be a Hindu to us, really, because you don't come from any of our tribes. You don't have that lineage. Yeah, you're open to believe whatever you like, but you won't be part of that religion. Yeah, to be your faith, you can call yourself a Hindu, but you won't be part of our structure. You
What
won't
if
be
I have
part
no
of.
interest in following a religion?
Pardon?
Well, not
Okay,
just
that's
me,
fine.
but somebody else. What if a person genuinely has no interest in following a religion? What if all a person wants to do is just sit and connect to God and just be
No,
content with that for like 5 years or so?
no, that they can do. If a person wants to follow, say, even if they want to follow a kind of pagan religion of their choice, pure individualism, it's up to them. The only thing is you're going to be unhappy. In 10 years from now, it's going to, no, trust me, I know that. No, all my friends, I've had new age from hippies to punks, you name it. I've had the atheists convert to religions, people from religions convert to atheists. I've seen it all. I've got friends, I've seen them. The ones that are happy are the ones in the established religions. Every new age person I know is either
Do
separated.
your own survey and look at the mental health. And I met some really
Totally.
nice people who are trying these new age religions. And the nicest ones, I mean, they definitely have mental health problems, and they show it. Just do a survey at Speaker's Corner. Do one-to-one discussions, and you'll see the reality of what your uncle is saying. Because I've seen that as well, right? Atheists are most depressed. The new age ones are really struggling, and often they've gone through something really traumatic. Like one friend had, his dad commit suicide in front of him, basically, and that kind of crazy stuff. So I don't say become Muslim right now or whatever. I can see you're on the journey, and he accepts that Islam's got lots of answers whenever we talk. That's my short version. As I said, every time you talk, you express Islam. Like you did a video about weak men. But what's the reason behind it? You cannot just tell men to be strong. There's a reason, there's a root behind it. Okay, and that's they lost their role in Western society. I'm gonna quickly quote this. I'm really gonna try to keep it to the 3 minutes we have. Although I love talking to you guys, really I do. Yeah, but I've got another live stream which is also going to be really interesting. It's going to be completely crazy, where he's going to talk about all his personal life. I told him to keep his camera off because I want him to get married. But anyway, it's all about that. And anyway, here we go. Men are guardians, okay? And the Arabic is way more meaningful than English can manage. So the word guardian means somebody who tends to the affairs, manages the needs, protects and governs over women, because Allah has made some of them excel others, and because they, the men, spend of their wealth. So virtuous women are those who are obedient and guard the secrets of their husbands with Allah's protection. This is super sexist, right? Western society won't accept this, and it's going to fail, and it's going to punish itself for it, and it's punishing itself right now. That's why men are so weak, because their leadership position doesn't fit with the current feminist paradigm. So you have to decide. I think your uncle is really accurate in describing some of you're trapped by saying feminism is trash, but deep down you like this equality. You like the source of feminism is I want to do whatever I want. And it doesn't work, and it's not universal. This is really uncomfortable. This is too uncomfortable.
I
That's
do
what I'll say
whatever I
about
want
it.
is
Yeah.
actually a liberal idea, not a feminist idea. Feminism is actually a collectivist idea. That's why it's interesting Uncle Narish called feminism as a religion, because feminism is actually very much a collectivist idea.
We could prove. We could do a whole. We could.
Individualism is a very,
Yeah.
very liberal idea.
I didn't
Yeah.
say
I think. Yeah. Go on. I'm not going to say much more. I disagree, and very clearly we can prove that feminism is just from liberalism. This kind of whatever version of it. But I don't want to have the last word. We didn't get to the end, but that's cool because some epic conversations were had. Okay, and
10 more minutes. We can't go.
I would love to, but I like to. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
completely wrong in stopping it, but
No, I have to
yeah.
say, I think this is that. I know this might sound funny, but I think it's actually one of the favorite live streams I've actually done.
Thank
Very,
you.
very, very
No, I'm
good.
loving it as well, and I'm loving that you
Very
say
cool.
the way you're saying whatever you think, because you represent millions of young people. So it's good whatever you're saying, right? Can I have Uncle, out of respect, because he's the eldest here, to say the last few words for 1 minute maximum? We're just gonna like suddenly cut off after that to get to the next live stream. Go for it, Uncle. Oh, Uncle
Oh crap, is
disappeared.
he gone? Oh
Did
no.
he misunderstand or something? I don't know. No. I think he
Uh-huh.
pressed the wrong button. He just probably pressed the wrong button.
Can you bring him back? Or...
I mean, he has to bring himself back. He just has to. He probably could just clicking a link somewhere. You say something, Serena. You have the last words. I've said
Well, the
whatever I
reason
wanted.
I say what I'm saying is because I'm just trying to think realistically. I think it would be a bit stupid if I turn around and was like, yes, I'll accept Islam, because we know that's not really going to happen. So what I'm trying to do is just say, well, realistically, what can a person who's grown up in a secular Western society, who does
Like
want to,
me.
discover, spiritualism find? And I know for a fact that most people are not going to, say, okay, I'll accept that it's just not going to work. I think it's much more practical to start off with small steps. And I know this because
Yeah.
of if you raise somebody in a very individualistic liberal society, they are not going to be at all, if you just throw something at them, they're going to just freak out. So a much more kind of pragmatic way would be, okay, start by saying, okay, there's something greater than you. There is something bigger out there than you. Start by trying to connect to that. Like they do that in Alcoholics Anonymous. They always say, start with trying to find a higher power, and then over time, people just develop. But I also think as well, why does it have to be today? Like I'm only 26 years old, right? Maybe when I'm 40, maybe I'll want to convert to
26 is old.
it's not
Really
at
is
all.
old.
You live the
Okay, you
world.
know why it's old? The reason why it's old is not because it's old compared to 80, which is the average, life expectancy. It's old because you've only got a few years to make the right decisions in terms of marriage. Otherwise, I can't remember what the stats are. Like 30 for women is like a deadly age for in terms of reproductive rates. Like there's 50-50 chance you won't have any children. It goes downhill really quick. So I'm going to say, sister, my little sister, please, just like your uncle said, I honestly mean this. Don't think, I don't know, don't think you've got all the time in the world. Do try to make the fastest, best choices you can for your own sake. I think you're very smart. You're doing loads of great stuff. I don't want to make it sound like whatever. You know what I mean? I really value lots of things you're saying. I'm just saying, whatever I'm saying to you, I'm saying to myself. I've made loads of mistakes in my life. I'd rather make less. You can learn from them, but we want to go forwards, not 90 degrees to the actual helpful direction, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Little sister Serena, catch you in the next one. Good talking to you. Always good talking to you. You too. Bye.
Bye.